Hey guys, welcome back to History Revision Success. So this is my second video in a small series about Huguenot migration, which applies to both AQA and Edexcel GCSE History. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the first and the second wave of migration, where migrants went, why they decided to leave, and in the next video, we'll get on to the impact and significance this had on England. If you haven't already watched the first video on this, I really advise you go and do so, particularly if you want grade 9, because that's about why there was this religious crisis in France at the time. So, as I said in my first video, by the 1530s, we've got tension building in France over religion between the Catholics and the Protestants. 1572 marks a turning point, and it's really the catalyst meaning spark, of this first wave of Huguenot migration. What happens is an event that we know as the St. Bartholomew Day Massacre, and this was actually a 3-day event, despite the name, where Protestants were brutally persecuted and murdered all over France. This happened at the direction of Catherine de' Medici, who was the regent of France at the time. She was the widow of the King Henry II and the mother of his 4 sons. Of those 4 sons, her older son Francis has died. Currently, her second youngest son Charles is on the throne, and her youngest son Henry III, who is the son that I spoke about in my first video, will be king after Charles. Now, Charles is under her direction and control as regent, and he's pushed to make these decisions to carry out this event. Now, many people say this event really scarred Charles, and he never quite recovered from it, which I guess could account somewhat to perhaps his young death, but we don't know that for sure. Now, the massacre, as I said, was 3 days of violence. Catholic citizens were recruited into militias across the country. Catholic noblemen led these militias, led the violence, and it led to that first wave of migration from French Catholics, French Protestants, who really decided they needed to seek safety elsewhere. So why did they choose England? Now, at the time, 1572, Henry VIII's England seemed like a good choice. So at this point, we had Elizabeth I on the throne, and she had followed the Reformation of her father, and England was a Protestant country. So it seemed like somewhat of a haven for people to move to. In addition, they also moved to Germany, the Netherlands, both of which are majority Protestant countries. If you know anything about Tudor England, you'll know the Netherlands soon becomes the site of religious clashing itself, because it comes into the hands of Philip of Spain through inheritance. And Philip of Spain is a committed Catholic, and we have the wars in the Netherlands that go on there about religion as well. Anyway, so England seems like a bit of a safe haven because of the fact that it's converted to Protestantism, as does Germany and the Netherlands. Now, after Charles's death, his younger brother Henry III is on the throne, and as I said in my first video, he dies without a child, and so his heir is his distant cousin Henry IV of France, or Henry of Navarre. Remember, he's the man of Bourbon lineage, royal blood, and he is our next king. So he's crowned in 1589. Now, he is actually baptized as a Catholic when he's born, but he's brought up as a Protestant by his mother. And throughout the origins of this kind of religious fighting, it appears as if he's going to be a Protestant. He spends 4 years fighting the Catholic League once he has taken the throne. However, after that point, I think it becomes apparent that in order to create some level of peace and stability in France, he's going to need to convert to Catholicism. So after 4 years of fighting, he converts to Catholicism, and that kind of ends some of the conflict for the moment. Now, in 1598, he issues a Bill of Rights, and we call that the Edict of Nantes. Now, this slowed migration because it granted freedom to practice religion without fear. So this was kind of his move towards tolerance. It gave Protestants substantial rights, it gave them freedom of consciousness, and it ended the wars of religion, at least for the moment. Now, his grandson, King Louis XIV of France, inherits the throne. He's the grandson of Henry IV, as I said, and he decides to revoke this edict. Now, revoke means to take away, to remove. So he withdrew all those privileges that his grandfather had given Protestants living in France, and this is what prompts the second wave of migration of the Huguenots. So Protestant ministers are given a choice of converting to Catholicism or emigrating. And in 1685, he tears up the Edict of Nantes, and he officially brandishes Huguenots as heretics and declares that they should be persecuted. So heretic means somebody who's not following the correct religion. And as I said, he withdrew their privileges. Now, at this time, so in 1685, he tears up the Edict of Nantes. He also decides at this point to ban their right to leave the country. However, 200,000 Protestants did manage to flee and escape. 50,000 of those, so 25%, chose to go to England for the reasons that I previously mentioned. And that's it for this video, guys. So if you want to know about what impact the Huguenots had on England and specifically the significance, and if you're studying AQA, you should know how helpful that video would be to you in case you get a significance question on the Huguenot migration. Do watch the next video in the series. And I hope this has been helpful to you. If it has, please do like the video, please do subscribe. It's really helpful. It really tells me that it's worthwhile me taking the time to make these videos for you. And yeah, keep watching, stay tuned for the next one.